Today's topic is about generational wealth building. When we grow up, our parents, grandparents, siblings, the news all tell us to buy assets to accumulate wealth. So that's what we do. We invest in properties, we invest in the stock market, we build and buy businesses, all in our personal name. And then something goes wrong, death, divorce, or one of our employees does something negligent. And then it's an all eggs in one basket scenario. Notwithstanding this, in South Africa, there's various death taxes triggered when you do pass away. The first 3.5 million is tax-free. From 3.5 million to 30 million is taxed at 20%. And then anything over 30 million is taxed at 25%. Now, all eggs in one basket where you house assets in your personal name doesn't sound like such a good thing anymore. It's due to this that we should consider structuring ourselves. Now, a structure ordinarily comprises of a trust, right? And a trust is a separate legal entity, meaning nobody can own a trust. You can only represent a trust as a trustee. Now, you need a minimum of 2 trustees in South Africa, one of which must be an independent trustee. The trustees control. Because a trust is a separate legal entity and nobody can own a trust, it becomes great for asset protection and estate planning. Now, when we're talking about legacy building, estate planning is key. Because of that non-ownership factor, housing your assets, investments, etc. in a trust structure means that those assets are no longer owned by you and rather owned by the trust and controlled by the trustees. Because of this, you see how you get asset protection, and if you set up the trust to outlive you, you also get the estate planning. That's how legacy building is created. Now, you might say, Steve, this trust is amazing. Everyone needs a trust. There are drawbacks, and the drawbacks are in the tax. The trust is taxed heavily, with income tax at 45% and capital gains tax at 36%. Now, due to this tax level, it is often a big drawback to trusts. So something to consider is, rather than just a standalone trust, is the combination of a trust that owns shares in a company and then purchasing the assets into the company. Now, business owners, as you know, the tax on companies is a little bit less than a trust, with the income tax being 27% and the capital gains tax at 21.6%. So as you can see, you get your asset protection from the trust because nobody can own a trust. You get your estate planning from the trust because you can set up a trust so that it never dies. And then you get some nice tax efficiencies by having the trust-owned company structure. This is how a legacy is created and built to survive you. Now, I would say this is probably one of the greatest structures for high net worth individuals in order to house and grow their personal assets. But now when we're talking about business, it may not be the same. You don't necessarily want to house all your personal assets in the same structure that you hold your business assets. Because then if something goes wrong with the business or the personal, you see how it may contaminate the one side over the other. So for business owners, we might want to consider a new trust, just putting it as BT there, that owns a shareholding company. And then that shareholding company owns your shares in your trading or operational entity. Now, it can be a challenge, and I know what you're probably thinking. Transferring shares to a shareholding company is going to cause tax, capital gains tax for that matter, and that's at 18% in your personal name. So now there is something called corporate rules restructures, and you must consult a professional in this regard. Consider an asset for share swap, where you transfer your asset, being your shares in the operational company, to the shareholding company in exchange for a qualifying equity share. If this is done correctly, the base cost of the shares rolls over to the holding company and there may be 0 capital gains tax consequences. Again, these transfers can be very complex. Always consult a professional. But now, once you're in this structure, you see that you have your personal assets separate from your business assets. So if something ever goes wrong with the business structure, your personal assets are still safe. This is generational wealth building in a nutshell. Now, of course, a lot more goes into the structure, and I will take deeper dives in my next few videos. This is not something that can be explained in one short video. And please remember, due to the nature of the structuring and the content like this, you must always consult a professional before you make any sort of moves like this. A mistake can be costly.